So let's talk about Evernote. I've been using Evernote for about 10 years. I used it for my degrees, I've used it for work, and I've also used it for book studies, primarily for book studies in the last kind of 5 years or so. Evernote is a killer place for knowledge management. And in this video, I want to show you exactly how I organize my Evernote app. And then in the second part of this video, if you're really interested in seeing how I organize books, we're going to delve in a bit deeper to getting that interaction between Evernote and Kindle. So if you're ready, let's go. Hey everyone, my name is Dave Betts and we are sat at my computer screen right now. I'm going to open up the Evernote app, and as you come in here, you can see here are my notes. There's notebooks, there's notes, and then there's the content of the notes. It's fairly straightforward. You can add tags as well. It does get a bit more deep than that, but that's probably all you need to know. Your notebooks, your notes, and then the content of those notes. And of course, the search bar, that's pretty key as well. So if you wanted to look through your notes, it's pretty easy. You just scroll through, you find a note you want. I'm gonna go for this one. And then you can just scroll down and you can read your notes. It's pretty helpful. That's from one of my degree courses. But you might find that the all notes thing is not super helpful if you want to find a specific note. Instead, you might go to, instead you might go to notebooks, where you can see I've separated things into my reading, into my studies, and then into more general studies, and then I've got home and personal and work. Now, the truth is, I don't really use it for home stuff. Sharia and I, my wife Sharia and I, have a bucket list on there. That's about it. Otherwise, I do use it for work a little bit, for courses and things like that. But primarily, the big focus is on my degrees and on reading. So that's why I've got an underscore here for reading. And within those notebooks, those stacks, I have notebooks. And so primarily what I do is I like to read books on my Kindle. I read about 50 to 100 books a year in general, and I will go through on my Kindle and I'll highlight not just key quotes, but I'll highlight key ideas so that then I can come back to that book and read kind of the core message of the book in a much faster way without losing all that time reading the whole book. Does that make sense? So, I have a lot of hardcover books that just gather dust because I have to then individually sift through all those books. But what I can do here is I can go scroll through. I'll just show you in secular book studies. Let's look at 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson. I don't have a ton of highlights from here, but then I can scroll down. I can see everything I read that I thought, that's actually pretty good. And I go through. What I really should do with this one is go through and delete the little Kindle bit because that's annoying. And also these yellow highlights. I tend to not do it just because I just want to get to the information quickly. We'll talk about exporting these in the next video, so stick with me on that. It's really helpful. Now, you might think, yeah, that's great, but I could do that with my hardcover books. I could just open them up and find the bits I've underlined. Well, this is where it becomes really key. If I go to all my notes and I want to search for a topic, so I host a podcast with my wife Sharia, and very soon we're going to be hosting a podcast episode on why does God allow suffering? So that's the topic. Why does God allow suffering? Well, I can come up here and I'll put suffering in. I tend to put it in quotation marks because I find it helpful. And every time that suffering is mentioned in any of my notes, it will highlight here. So I can see that 165 notes mention suffering. So then I can go through these books, and if I press Control and F and then type in suffering, I can see every time it's mentioned. Now, what's really cool is that it also, in this bright, if you look into your right here, you can see it highlights where in the note that the word suffering appears, as well as highlighting it on the screen. So you can see here. So I could be like, oh, is that helpful? No, that's not helpful for me. But Jordan Peterson, I will be back on Jordan Peterson. If I type suffering, it's already there. In a crisis, the inevitable suffering that life entails can rapidly make a mockery of the idea that happiness is the proper pursuit of the individual. Wow, pretty deep. But then I could take that quote, and I've got the location of it in my Kindle, and I'm suddenly good to go. I can quote it and I can cite it, and it's got everything I need. It's fantastic. Now, I happen to know there's a book called Why Does God Allow Suffering? Oh no, Where is God in all the Suffering? Now that was a really helpful book for me. If I was to write suffering here, it's going to come up an awful lot. Yeah, look at all that. But what you can do is, if you're preparing for something like that, you think, yeah, actually, I want to come back to this book later. You can add a tag, which is what I've done. I've added a tag called suffering. Now I've deleted all my tags. And I used to have like hundreds and hundreds of tags, and I just didn't use them because there was too many. So I've culled them, and I can see here that suffering, I've tagged all the books that I think would be helpful, and all the content that's helpful. So I can come back to this pretty soon, and then I have just this depth of knowledge that I've accrued over years and years that is ready to go when I'm having a conversation about suffering. So that's really helpful. I mean, you can do that with lots of things. So that's how I use tags, is to bring together content from separate notebooks. So power is another example. I just did a podcast episode on the abuse of power in leadership, and you can click on power, and I can see that I've got some stuff from my degree course, which was talking about Bertram and Raven's bases of power. So I can search bases of power here. French and Raven, sorry, Bertram Raven is the guy. That was really helpful. But then I can also go to Diane Langberg's kind of power, understanding authority and abuse in the church, and there's some really helpful stuff here. Suddenly, you just have this knowledge that's right at the tip of your fingertips. Is that right? Right at your fingertips whenever you need it, which is very good. So the key thing is how you import content. So there's two things that I want to show you. One is I'm going to show you in this video, and then the other I'll show you in the next video. If you go to any article that you like, and you think, oh, actually, I want to keep this to come back to and to search through later. Let's say this one, the 7 emails you should send every week to get ahead in your career. All you do is click the Evernote bit, and then you can, it's the Evernote web clipper, I should say. Sorry, I got distracted then because something came up on my other screen. And you can choose simplified articles, so it gets rid of all the extra nonsense that you don't really need. And then you just click simplified article, and then you choose where you want it to go. Now, we've got the inbox here as well. Let me just close some of these because that's not very helpful to see. So you've got all your notebooks. You choose to put it into a notebook, or what am I doing here? There we go. Or you can choose, come on, buddy, to just stick it in your inbox, and then you can sort it later. So that's what I'm going to do now. And let's say, I'm not going to add a tag because I'll go down a slippery slope. You save it. Well, when you open up Evernote and you go to your inbox, it should sync pretty quick. There you go. And now we've got it ready to go. And that's part of your search. So you could search email. Suddenly, yeah, it's searchable. It's good to go. What happened there? Email, there you go. So that's the easiest way to import articles from the web in terms of knowledge management. I do that a lot for general study. That's why in these kind of Christian and secular general studies stuff, that's where I'll find a lot of those articles. But in the next video, I want to talk about how I import Kindle notes, because that's a big deal. And if you want to find a place where you store knowledge well, I recommend that you be reading from a Kindle or an ebook reader in some way, because it just makes a huge, profound difference to be able to search all your books. It's great. So if you found this helpful, like and subscribe and all that, or stick with me to the next video so I can show you how to import notes, I should say, into Evernote.